And you get out of Oregon again. You had a great run there. You get out, and you're going to get drafted into the NBA. When did you realize? I mean, did you have any inkling the Sonics? They had 2 picks in that draft. They took some guy named Nick Collison with the 12, and we're banking on you still being there, I guess, and you were with the 14. When did you find out you were going to Seattle? Was it when they picked you? Did you have any idea they were interested in you?
Yeah, we had an idea. It was either going to be Golden State at 13 or Seattle at 14. And I think Utah had a later pick, and it probably would have been there. But my whole draft experience was tough just because I was hurt. I actually had a sports hernia. I had to have surgery on it, so I couldn't work out for many teams. And I just had to trust the Lord had my back. He was going to put me where I was supposed to be. So, but I found out. I was at home, had a bunch of friends over at the house. As soon as the pick came up, my phone rang, so I knew it was coming. But that was quite the experience, just to be able to, as a small town kid, to be able to get picked, to your home state. It was pretty surreal.
I think you and Nick Collison have stayed close over the years, and I'm wondering, does he ever grind you on getting drafted 2 ahead?
He did when we used to play together, but yeah, me and Nick are still close, still talk to him all the time, and I'm glad he went 12. That means he had more pressure than me.
That's right. I want to ask you, so your rookie season, you go through camp, and the Sonics open the season in Tokyo with the NBA game. They're regular season games. You guys played 2 games against the Clippers, and there's 2 things. There's a few things I remember about that trip. I was on the trip. The 2 I really remember are, you remember Rashard goes for 50 on Saturday afternoon. I looked at the box score. It's unbelievable, the assist totals in that game. How many? Let me see here. You had you had 6. Flip had 7. Brent Berry had 7. Rashard had 4. I don't know how Rashard had 4. How do you have time to take all those shots and get 4 assists? That was a fun game. Well, it must have been, I mean, it was the second game of the season, but it's kind of your introduction into the NBA. Did you kind of think, oh, this will be great. We'll have a guy score 50 every night and nobody will beat us?
I remember thinking, I can't believe I got to be a part of someone scoring 50, because just college, you don't see that happening. Not many guys get going like that. And then to be able to happen right away in the NBA was like, I was like, wow, this kid is good. So just to be a part of it, and then especially as the season goes, you see how hard it is to score like that, and get experience it so quick. And in Japan or Tokyo, that was fun, just to be able to have that be your first, for me, my first part of the NBA, and getting to play, which you don't see regular season games over there like that, like they do, like we did then. It's kind of weird, but it was quite a start for me to be able to get to see it and be a part of it.
The other story I remember, and I'm hoping you remember it, I think once I hit your memory a couple of times, you will. The NBA, and you mentioned earlier that you were injured and you stayed home. You didn't go to New York City for the draft.
Yeah.
In the NBA, the night before the games in Tokyo, they had a reception, and everybody was there, though. The whole league was there in terms of administrators stuff, including David Stern. And you and Richie Fromm were standing talking. And I don't know if you remember this story, but Richie, I think it was Richie he brings me and says, hey, I got a question for you. Luke didn't get his picture taken with David Stern at the night of the draft like a guy normally does. Normally the first round picks, they get their picture. And he said, I got a Sonics hat upstairs. If I go up and get it, would you talk to David Stern and see if he'd do that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be. Now, do you remember this? Am I getting your memory going at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, Richie went up and get the hat and he gives it to him. We went up to David Stern, who, there's people here who blame Stern for the Sonics leaving, and we're never going to make him a warm and cuddly character here. But on that night, I remember him being really gracious with you and talking to you. Do you remember that incident where he would pose with you? I remember he made you switch sides because he said, no, you'd be on this side of me if it was the TV broadcast.
Yeah, I do remember that. Richie, he's like, you got to do it. This is a memory you're going to have forever. So I was like, all right. And I'm glad you did it because I didn't go ask him either.
I took the photo. I take credit for the photo if you've got it anywhere in your memorabilia. I've got it somewhere, but then I don't know if you remember what happened next. The funny thing is we get done with you and Stern looks at Richie Fromm, goes, what about you? And Fromm's an undrafted free agent who's made the team out of Gonzaga. And he goes, okay. So we get a picture of Richie Fromm shaking hands with the commission.
I love it. Yeah. Classic.
He was a good dude. I mean, he got a lot out of his career, given where he came from. He was a fun guy. He could play a little bit at the pro level.
Yeah, he played. He did really well. Just a good guy. Works hard. It's fun to see guys like that make it for a few years.
So that's the first season, and you guys you roll along. What was Nate like? You're playing for Nate, and then you play for him on a playoff team the next year. But what was it like playing for a guy whose shoes you were kind of arguably trying to fill? You're trying to be the guy running the show out on the floor. What was it like being that guy as a rookie for Nate?
I really liked it just because he was hard nosed. You know, he was tough. The thing about Nate that I always appreciated, I mean, I had a lot of coaches over my NBA career, and he was I had a few, but one of the few that held everybody accountable, whether you're the superstar or you're the 13th man. He treated you the same, and he held you the same rules as everybody else. And I think that's why he's had such a long coaching career, is he just he treats everyone the same, and he knows what he's doing.
And he's the guy that in 04-05 and really you guys put together a great roster, a great team, and you get off to an unbelievable start. I think you went 9-1 at the start of the year. Was 04-05 for you? Was it your most memorable and happiest and most successful season in terms of you're on a 52 game winner that goes to the second round of the playoffs? Is when you think back on your career, is that the year that sticks out to you the most?
It's one of them. I mean, definitely in Seattle, it was our best run, and you could just the chemistry that we had as a team and everyone getting to be a part of it, you know, feel like they had, I mean, a lot of guys had their best career years that year. Antonio Daniels, Ray Allen, Rashard had amazing years that year. But what I remember most about that year is just being in the playoffs. We beat the Spurs at home, and I got back on, I don't know, what is that, Mercer Street that goes onto the freeway?
Yeah.
And I could hear, like, once it was packed, you couldn't move. So the fans were still in their cars yelling Super, and the other side would yell Sonics. And I just remember just thinking, this is incredible. Like, I'm a part of what I got to watch growing up with Peyton and Kemp, and just seeing the fans for those series. And then I was a part of it. And like, no one ever recognized me, so I could be anywhere and they wouldn't know who I was. So it was fun just to be able to be in the fans, part of it, outside of the arena, and just see the excitement and just how much the Sonics meant to that city.
It's a theme we hit on all the time, and it feels, and it's taken a long time, but it feels optimistic right now that there is going to be a return of the NBA, and hopefully in Seattle and maybe in Las Vegas as well as expansion teams. But you hit on something. Talk about your relationship with the city and your impressions of the city. You know, here you are now. You're not in college anymore. You're not a kid. You're a young man, and you're your own guy. You're getting paid. You're a professional. What do you remember about Seattle in addition to those first two stories?
Oh, just like the fans they're very knowledgeable. They know basketball. I mean, they like watching good basketball, and just how passionate they were about the Sonics. And we had some tough years when I was there too. Just, you know, with especially when KD and those guys came, we didn't win like 19, 20 games, but people would still show up, still supporting you. But just the passion for the Sonics, they'd been there so long. And I think that's why it's hurt so bad, is that the whole city was invested, not just the city, but the state was invested in the Sonics. And still today, wherever I go, it's when are the Sonics coming back? You know, how was your experience? It's never about any other city. It's always about the Sonics or any other team that I played for. So I think it's just the passion that they have for that team and that franchise. And I think in everyone else's mind, the Sonics still exist in Seattle, even though they don't get to play. So hopefully it happens again one day.
That 04-05 team, and I was trying to think back on what happened. Did something weird happen in April? I know you guys really staggered at the finish. You were rolling all year, and then I think you lose 8 of your last 10 or something. You recover and beat Sacramento in the playoffs, and you pushed San Antonio. So it really doesn't matter. But do you recall that losing streak, or what triggered that?
Yeah, I think Rashard was hurt and didn't play. Yeah, it was Rashard was hurt, and Radmanovic was kind of in it. He was a big part of what we were doing too, just the way he could shoot the ball. Both those guys were kind of just hobbling along, trying to make it to the end. So I think he rested them a lot. And I remember myself personally, just first time playing, I think I played all 82 games that year. You're just like in survival mode that last month. mentally. So just being able to fight through that. And then I think once we hit the playoffs, everybody got rejuvenated and those other guys got healthy. And we knew we were good. We just had to get going again.
And you beat the Kings pretty easily 4-1 in the first round. And now you've got San Antonio, as you mentioned, that they win 2 down there. You guys win 2 up here. And then you lose 1 down there. You come up here for game 6. I don't know about you, Luke. I can still see Ray Allen in the corner. And it wasn't an easy, wide open look. Let's be honest here. It wasn't like Ray missed a wide open 3, but he got you're thinking it's Ray Allen. I remember thinking he's getting a pretty good look at this. Can you still see that shot in your mind?
I can. I actually remember the play before it was Ginobili did his little famous Euro step, somehow got it up, and I think somebody tipped it in after he missed it. So I remember thinking we have this game because I think we were up. I can't remember exactly, but then I remember the out of bounds play. Ray got a great look at it. It was a tough shot, like you said, but we were close, and it would have been fun to be able to get them in one more game because you never know what can happen. But that was a fun team. I mean, we didn't have Rashard for that game either. He was hurt.
That's right.
Yeah, we were still battling. So
you mentioned a guy who's one of my favorite Sonics ever, just because he thought he had a unique game, and B, was such an interesting character. What was Vladimir Radmanovic like behind the scenes? What kind of guy was he?
Classic. That's all you can say. He's just a classic guy. Like, I mean, he cared, but he also didn't care. He was just kind of free for all type guy. But man, he could shoot. He had all the talent in the world. So to see him that year, I think he had a career year that year as well. Just to see him kind of start to hit the stride where he could. But just a great guy. Never ate anything but one big meal, and then he would go play. I never knew how he did it.
I remember Kevin Calabro hung the nickname Broadway Joe on him, and it was completely lost on Radmanovic because he hadn't grown up here. He didn't really know who Joe Namath was. But once Kevin did it, it's like, he looked like Joe Namath, didn't he? I mean, he just at a glance, you'd go, that looks like Broadway Joe. He's taller and thinner, but he looks like Joe Namath. That was an accurate call.
It was really good. He was right on. That's Calabro, though. He's one of the best ever.